Richard Hughes has played king and kingmaker. By the way, the reason I'm shouting is because I'm above a motorway. I'm looking for Alexander Isak's car, Ben Doak's car, or Ben's new name, and also Visa's car. None of them have been on this motorway yet, guys, which makes me think they're hiding somewhere. I'm joking. I don't know why I'm shouting. I could have spoken at a perfectly normal volume. But all of them are on the move, allegedly. Every club along the way is demanding a certain fee. And that is also, by the way, because the transfer window isn't closed yet. And as obviously you get closer and closer to the deadline, the received knowledge at the moment is basically that, yeah, if we hold out, then we'll get more money. That's part of negotiation. As the stakes are raised, people are willing to avoid risk by paying more. It's almost simple economics. It is a case of supply and demand in the sense that there is demand at each of these clubs for a striker, Bournemouth, Brentford, Newcastle, Liverpool, but it's not supply and demand in the traditional sense. In fact, well, actually, maybe it is, but it's not supply and demand in the sense that someone can just produce more strikers, is what I mean. It is supply and demand in the sense that there is a very low supply of strikers and there is a very high demand for someone who plays in that position. I'm very interested, by the way, to see why Liverpool have put so much value onto Alexander Isak, not only because obviously he's a great player, but as we also see, obviously, that there is Rodrigo who's available, who apparently is on his way to Arsenal. Few people feel there is a deal already to be done or that is already kind of behind the scenes done, and there are a lot of people just negotiating around that. I think that means Rodrigo goes to Arsenal. I think that means Isak goes to Liverpool. I think it means Vissa goes to Newcastle in the end, probably for a slightly increased fee, even though Craig Hope himself said that the PIF would not sign off on a certain level of spending. Of course, on top of that, then, you also have to look at the fact that I think Liverpool have put all their eggs into the Isak basket, and there is a reason for that. Not weirdly, it leaves them maybe a little bit weaker in the negotiating position, but I think what that leads me to conclude is that actually there is already a deal behind the scenes that is done, a price that Liverpool are willing to pay and a price that Newcastle are willing to accept. If Liverpool felt that they were still negotiating with Newcastle, I think we'd be seeing a lot more posturing in the media. I think we'd see a lot more leaks, a lot more headlines, because Liverpool will want Newcastle to think they were looking elsewhere. As it stands, the player still hasn't obviously put in the transfer request, but he's done everything but. At this point, there is a demonization of Alexander Isak and possibly Vissa, but less of him, that I find a little bit weird. It just depends on who you consider to be, and this is genuinely the case, who you consider to be the most in power, or the kind of the top of the hierarchy. Do you consider PIF to be the top of the hierarchy? Do you consider Liverpool to be the top of the hierarchy? Do you consider Alexander Isak to be the top of the hierarchy? There are different power dynamics that are at play here. But ultimately, what I found interesting is that Liverpool have tried always to position themselves at the centre. Never, and obviously that makes you generally the most powerful, being at the centre. Depending on how you draw the map, I suppose. I probably should draw out some power dynamics for you guys sometimes. But what I mean by that is it allows them to be king and kingmaker in multiple different senses. I'm just going to put my bag down here because it is a little heavy for me today. I've got a lot of kit in this big old bag. And what I mean by that is Richard Hughes, obviously a very smart man in the first place, and Michael Edwards, also a very smart man in the first place, have engineered some of these elements of the moves. And what I'm seeing from certain people in the way that they cover it is a certain naivety in the way that they speak about Liverpool, in the way that they speak about Isak, in the way that they speak about themselves. I think Liverpool have been shown to have been shrewd in the transfer market. Doesn't make them the best, even though people are talking about a legendary window if they get Isak and Gray. It makes them slightly ahead of the curve, I think. I think what we're finding is that as Newcastle don't have a director of football, not only is it hindering Newcastle, it's also hindering the other teams that want to either buy from them or sell to them, because the negotiation process is becoming drawn out. And in losing face or in losing reputation or respect or whatever it is, things that are very easily won and lost in football, by the way, those things can turn. Newcastle themselves are playing a very short-term respect game about, well, we can win this respect back, or we can win this face back in the media, or Eddie Howe himself will have been speaking to certain people in the media in the same way as Newcastle will have been speaking to certain people in the media, in the same way as then those same media people will all go around and speak to each other. This is a long game of no longer 4D chess, guys. We're barely playing Ludo at this point. We're not really playing... Ludo is quite a complex game. We're barely playing... Checkers is also difficult. We're barely playing Snap at this point. It's basically put down a card, is it a transfer? Put down a card, is it a transfer? That's where we're getting to. But the thing with Snap is, it's a 50-50 game. Well, I mean, it's 50-50 based on your reaction time, but you get what I'm saying, 50-50. In the sense that either you or someone else says Snap. Again, some of you will be very, the international Snap champions among you will be saying to me, Laurence, sometimes you can play with 3 or 4 people. That divides the odds. But generally what we're looking at here is a game of 50-50 between 2 people, generally an adult and a child. In this particular instance, I see Liverpool as the adult. I see some people as children. The point is, right, and it all builds into a bigger point here. I think Liverpool have put all their eggs in a basket because they feel that the outcome is inevitable. And when people are now saying when, not if, they're just really recognizing their own acknowledgement of a transfer rather than the reality that the transfer might now have ticked over or might now be official. And that's the problem. Or it's not even a problem, it's just the way that it then appears to the media. Does that make sense? What I mean by that is, Liverpool have been sure for a very long time now that a transfer is going to happen. Newcastle, I think, have also been sure for a very long time now that a transfer is going to happen. But it'll be whether they could get Visa or whether they could get, originally Sheshko, right? And then a couple of other people. And the issue with that was, as they went down their list of targets, it went from getting 1 striker to 2. So then they split their resource again across what was already a very stretched resource. But then they also, and this is kind of the bigger issue, revealed that they didn't really have a very strong hand in negotiating or keeping Isak because they were so desperate to keep him. And so now what has happened is we basically ended up in this merry-go-round where Liverpool sell Doak to Bournemouth. Bournemouth sell their striker to Brentford. Brentford sell their striker to Newcastle. Newcastle sell one of their strikers allegedly to Liverpool and try to make it through in this time. Because a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. And what I mean by that is having a striker is better than the potential of having Alexander Isak or having just anyone play for you. And the frustration, I think, from every club's part is you can play all of these hypothetical games on Twitter. You can say Newcastle have played 4D chess. Ultimately, the transfer market boils down to the very same thing that we all judge teams on week in, week out. Is that striker playing in the team or not? Is that team able to get that striker? And then when they get that striker, is he scoring goals or not? And weirdly, in the striker market, it really, in public, it'll boil down to that. Maybe in private, they go, well, Alexander Isak's creating space for Ekitike, and Ekitike will play alongside him, and you can see them playing off each other. And I will do a video about that. But the point is, Liverpool are judging this. This is all binary. This is all, did we get the guy or not? It isn't now, can we keep him for what price? It doesn't matter the price at this point. You need a striker. You need someone. And that is why teams are holding out. Because Brentford can get more for Visa. Newcastle can get more for Isak, though I think the price has been agreed there. Bournemouth can get more. But Richard Hughes is doing all that he can to grease the wheels, should we say, by selling Doak to Bournemouth. And in that, obviously, he's also making an incredible amount of profit, which, by the way, guys, takes Liverpool over £200 million worth of transfers in this window sold. Sold to the man in the cherry. Why is he wearing a cherry? Anyway, my point is, things are moving now. And you can make jokes about it. You know the ups and downs of it. You know what's going on. So you've heard that from Anfield Agenda before we've even started this video. So I appreciate you guys watching. I will There's a lot of stuff. I will... Why is there always a thing with a dog in the background of all my videos? I will check in with you guys later in the day. There is a video over on my members page going out later today, which is about the Chiesa chant and about some of the controversy around that at the moment. It's not something I really want to put out in public. And obviously it is something that I'm going to put out to a smaller set of people who are maybe looking to understand me rather than the other way around. It's become a bit of a contentious issue in the Liverpool fan base, and it's not a video that I particularly feel comfortable making. But I would encourage you to express your opinion on it. Go over to Discord, Patreon, all of the members area, and that video will be out later today. I appreciate you guys, and I'll chat to you in a while. Much love. Bye.